I can't tell you how much Pip and I have both looked forward to this leg of our journey. We've been out of New Zealand a little while now, and we're kind of getting a little weary, aren't we, Pip? But I have to say, this was a part of this particular trip that I was very excited about, and I know Pip was too. So we are indeed honored to come and be with you here, and I mean that sincerely. Steve and I have, we've developed quite a relationship over the years, and as he said, he's, in fact, long before Steve and I ever actually sort of fellowshipping and really connecting as brothers, I'd respected him as a teacher long before that. And so, you have something special here as a fellowship locally. Does everybody appreciate your rabbi? All right, okay. You do. You have something here. So, and not all people have that right now. Do you know that? Yeah. Sometimes we can take things for granted, can't we? Yeah. And that tends to be most likely with each other often. Have you ever noticed that? We can take those closest to us, for granted. So, the funny thing about the Father bringing perfection out of an imperfect existence is that it glorifies Him, doesn't it? And so, we all have our issues and struggles and idiosyncrasies and everything else. I know I have mine and the crew, and I know a number of them will be watching from New Zealand and things like that, and they put up with my idiosyncrasies. But it is nice when you're appreciated, because sometimes, especially when people are willing to speak truth, it's not always popular. Does everybody notice that we're not winning a popularity contest and we start to deal with matters of leaven in the house and all that kind of stuff? So I've appreciated Steve for a number of years, and I've learned much from him and his teachings, and I often say he's one of the best expositors that actually understands and accepts Messiah, knows who he is, in the Western world, in my opinion. And I don't say that kind of stuff lightly. Anybody who really knows me knows that I don't do that. So I think there's something exciting happening here, and it's so incredible just to be a part of being involved with the family here and just what's going on. And some of you that I've met. So if I've not had a chance to meet you or speak to you yet, or it looks like I was ignoring you, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get my act together. But we'll get going here. Because rabbis made sure that you can speak donkey, but you got a stop time. So I'm going to put that on. Okay. So we've got this way forward introduction. It's really hard. When you speak, every week, or you're able to go through a series, you kind of, even if you kind of get it off in that week, you kind of know that the next week gives you a little bit of amnesty. And I tend to have parts go on and on and on. Do you know anybody else who does that? It must be only me. I don't know where I got that from. So I don't have that luxury today, so I'm going to do my best. As we go through, there's a couple of slides, I'll just rock it through. I'll clip through, and we'll just drill down on a few little bits. Because sincerely, it's not a subject matter that really can be discussed in any real sort of detail. And perhaps today will even be a bit more of a talk than a teaching, as to so to speak. But we will briefly look at what does it matter, what does it look like, and how do I get involved. If you don't know who I am, I'm the donkey. A lot of the teachings and things like that, we are starting to put up on Podomatic, and we've just started to put some things on YouTube, although we're not videoing a lot of my teachings. But I've discovered that people listen to stuff on YouTube. As people listen to stuff, yeah. So it's interesting. So we started just to throw up some of the things there, and who knows, maybe next year, because a number of people have said, can you please show the slides or get it on video and whatnot. And so we'll be looking at sort of what can be done there and see what next year has to bring for us. Bible Pathway Adventures. Anybody here Bible Pathway Adventures in here? Okay, good. If you haven't, go and have a look. My wife Pip's with me here. Pip, stand up for a sec. There we go. She is a major part of Bible Pathway Adventures, which is one half of the ministry that we work with. So we got the donkey side, and then we got the BPA side. we work together in that. She is a fantastic author, and we have thousands of people now engaging around the world and over 140 countries. Yeah. And so they're starting to hook in. And what we've tried to do in both sides of the ministry, and as Steve quite rightly said, it's all discipleship focused. But we look at the life cycle, and we know there's many good things going on here with discipleship and with partial pearls and things like that. And what we're trying to do is work in a transition space. Has anybody noticed that some people are a bit farther along in understanding when you're sort of, who here has come from a Christian journey? Like, really on that side. Okay, so there's quite a few. It's a journey, isn't it? To really re-understand a number of things. And so does anybody remember what it was like when you first started? Maybe there's some people who are just starting now. Yeah. And wouldn't it be nice if some people cared and gave you some mercy along the way? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We love to jump into the justification or self-righteous camps, don't we? Anybody been guilty of that? Not in this room, right? Just the people watching. Yeah. We'll pick on them. So this is really about, and what we do is this whole life cycle thing. And so we're working with children right now between the ages, really of 5 to 12 is the target. We're about to look at something at the end of this year, which will be 3 to 5 as well. And what we're trying to achieve right through from the Donkey Speaks and working with ministries like MTOI and with BPA is to have people be involved with the life cycle, which is what I love about what Steve's vision is, and not only helping and working with the body, but this whole thing about the journey can start at, when we're just learning to talk, and it can start, when we're 80 years old. And so the life cycle is very important, and this is where the body plays a part in working together and be a part of this. So we're trying to have everything we do be based around discipleship, because my belief, naively or not, is that everything we're doing is actually discipleship, whether we know it or not. So I don't tend to just bucket it a certain way, and you'll see a little bit about that. But anyway, we'll keep going. So if you haven't checked out Bible Pathway Adventures, go have a look. People we work with and often start a journey with Bible Pathways, and then we actually send them to MTOI and to Partial Pearls and all sorts of stuff. So this is just examples of how we work together as a ministry. Also as well, before we get going, I know that we're going to be talking a little bit about the donkey stable just at the end of this. And I know there's some guys that are in the donkey stable, the men that are here with their wives and the donkeyettes and things like that. And it's been so wonderful catching up and seeing the faces there. And some of these people have been involved with MTOI for years. And we're just enjoying the, acting like a body again. It's really wonderful. And so this is something that I think we either going to model or we're just going to give it lip service. Who wants to model being a body again? Yeah. We like to talk this kind of stuff, don't we? But it becomes difficult. And I just want you to just pause on that for a second. This was just a slide that really took me back. Everybody is so busy correcting everybody that nobody is taking time to love anybody. Has anybody noticed there's a lot of stuff going on out there right now that's not looking so good? Does anybody here think they've seen some stuff going on? And you're going to hear me speak, if you haven't already, a little bit about both sides of the river. Has anybody here seen some stuff that doesn't look so pretty in the believing camps? How about in the last year? Hands up if you've seen something that's not looking. It can be social media, it can be on video, it can be on anything. It's pretty much the whole room. You're nowhere near the righteousness and holiness of what sits on the throne right now. Do you agree? Imagine if it looks like that to you, what do you think it looks like to him? One thing that Steve and I do share in common is we tend to actually, we don't have good filters sometimes. And that is one of the reasons why I respected him so much as a teacher over the years, because he's not actually whitewashing some of the things that need to be said. I need your permission to be able to do that, at least in some parts, as we look at this today. Is that okay? It's not meant to offend. It really isn't. Because everything that I speak about, and I mean this sincerely, I've probably been guilty of. Do you understand that? I speak from a place of what I got wrong, not what I got right. I'm sort of Ephraim coming in, and Steve's looking at me, my goodness, look at the state of you, man. And we talk about these two sticks coming together, don't we? Yeah, Oh, I didn't. I sanitized it, that one. I don't have a white flag. That's not fair. Okay. We got these singers. He's good at them, though. He's really good at them. I'm used to getting in the bang. Anyway, does everybody know we got an appointment before Yeshua? And no one's going to be able to fool him. Does anybody here think you're going to impress him with your knowledge? No. Do you think you're going to impress him with your righteousness? Your righteousness in his eyes, which is only a result of what he has done for us. You think about this. Is menstrual cloth before him. Whoa. That's your righteousness. What do you think the rest of it looks like? Hard to imagine, eh? You know, we've got to stop playing these games. The question is, and we all know this to a certain degree, but sometimes it can take fire in our lives, a crushing to get there. And we'll just speak a little bit about that. But we have a Messiah that's on his way, whether you live to see it or not. The appointment before him is there. Do you get it? So we are headed for this moment where the one who created us is going to stare and look into our hearts. And he's actually going to see a covenant that's there or not. And you're not going to be able to play a game. And apparently the ones that were trying to justify themselves on that day aren't in very good esteem. Read about it in Matthew. No more. No more justifying, no more words, no more I'm gonna, whatever it is. We can't fake a work that's going on in here. You know, we sing and reference the Shema and all sorts of things. And we should. Notice who that's to. Who's that to? Yeah. Is that to a piece of dirt? You know, heart, soul, might. But look at this. Look at this. And Steve's done a fantastic series on the heart of the matter. Well, that was only what, 2 parts? Yeah. 64 parts later, he's probably could still go and go and go. Because you know what? This one, the heart is desperately, and who can? The one who will judge it. There's only one, right? So we've got this situation here where, is this a heart matter? So the goal is actually a heart matter, right? Why do we act like it's not? Isn't it just a ticking the box matter? How about how right we get everything? How right you think you get everything and how wrong somebody else doesn't get it, right? Who's done that? I tell you right now, if your standard of self-righteousness is based on my righteousness, you're in big trouble. He's the standard, isn't he? So we got to figure out how to walk this together. Who wants to spend their time arguing with people over things you think you know and they think they know? And probably most likely you're both going to be wrong to whatever degree. And you want to waste your life doing this. And you're going to impress him in your own mind, right? You know, when fires, who's here, you know, the crushing of our lives? I bet you there's few testimonies in this room. And we're in pain. And it hurts. We're lonely. Or we're experiencing loss, whatever it might be. Did you feel like winning an argument when that was happening? Pressing somebody? Telling them how righteous you are and how they're not? In that moment, is that where you were? That is a place where we'll find true teshuvah. I don't know how to play around with this because when you experience enough loss, and I did, when you experience loss to that degree, you don't care anymore about impressing anyone. Look at me, look at the hat I'm wearing, right? You just don't, you get to a place where it's like, I'm sorry. Now respecting and appreciating those serving, different ball game. But not impressing. I am what I am. And I'm a work in progress. I only have a right to be speaking to you because of a blood that's covering me right now. Do you understand that? And it is a real honor to see others who have traveled and come so far to be a part and been a part of my walk and my journey, encouraging me. And that is a lot of people in this room. I have the honor to serve right now. Not the honor to tell you how right I get it all the time. You want the truth, sir? She's sitting right back there. She'll tell you. Anyway. The way Yah views us spiritually, do you know scripturally there's a description for where we're at? When we start this journey and going through this journey, do you know he refers to us as children and sheep? That's the creator. You know, he's saying, you know what children are? Are they imaginative and hard of hearing? What about sheep? Stupid, fearful, and scatty. So let me get this straight. The one who loves us, it's his plan, it's his dream, he's doing his thing. He's brought us, invited us all into it. He's saying, but you're going to be in a fallen state, and you're going to be imaginative, hard of hearing, stupid, fearful, and scatty. Makes Steve's job easy right now, doesn't it? How would you like to be rabbi in that situation? This is how the Creator refers to us. So you know. Now, how do you think that looks to the Father when we're sitting here smashing each other, thinking we know everything? And that's how he sees you. Isn't it kind of sobering to think what it might actually look like to him? We're sitting there keyboard warring and arguing and doing this, gotta do that, gotta tell him this. World is dying out there, and we are either going to be a representation, a light of him, or not. That is the choice that's before us in this little thing we call life, this time we get to be with one another, to learn to figure this out. Share in one another's burdens. Please remember this as we keep going on this, okay? Walk with each other. Learn to love each other. A world that is dying right now as the darkness encroaches is going to see a light in us, or it is not. The darkness that's ascending upon this planet right now is not the thing we're supposed to be fearful of. It is the thing we should be shining bright in. Are we shining? Are people seeing Messiah in us? Who here thinks you can fake it till you make it? You can't fake matters of the heart. There's a work going on in here, or there isn't. In this, though, however, when we go through, I'll talk about something called EAD, or emotionally arrested development. Everybody experiences this to one degree or another in their lives. I have, you have, we all do. Sometimes it can be a little bit more pronounced than others. Everybody's looking at the person beside them. Generally, that's the wives looking at the husbands, isn't it? We're emotionally arrested development. What that means is that there's areas in our lives that may have been stunted, weren't a chance to grow. There could be a number of reasons for this. We have a world out there that's getting pretty dysfunctional. So emotional development gets impacted as a result. Everyone understand that? Wherever it plays out. Don't think your emotionally arrested development is way less or worse, than someone else's. That's not what this is about. It's just that we're in a place where we're struggling along, chugging along. So we're going to experience this. However, the Father is a hidden servant analogy, and in the fires and the forging of my life, he started to not only expose my own emotionally arrested development, but started to actually show me something I'd never seen. Forged in fire, if you will, some of the messages that are given here, because this donkey's a bit hard of hearing. Ask Steve, he'll tell you. You see, we sometimes need it. Now, that's an interesting message to try and sell to the unbelieving world. You'll let me, I'll use a euphemism with Rome at times. Don't worry, I'm not picking on Just Romans as such. I'm using that as outside the camp, okay? Now, in this state that I'm in, we actually refer to, and everybody asked me, what's the donkey thing? So I'm gonna hit this really quickly up front. Does everybody think of donkeys as stubborn? Who thinks is that? We know. Do you think that donkeys have a good understanding, a good rap in the modern Western world? No, they don't. Yet the Father started to show me something. He started to bring the scriptures to life, and I started to see something I'd never seen. There was this creature that was appearing through helping the people of Israel and the appearances of Messiah all through scripture. This donkey. What the heck's that doing there? Why did you choose this animal to be a part of helping the understanding and the assistance of a people called Israel? Does anybody think that's interesting? If the Creator created an animal and then put that animal in the midst of not only being associated directly with Him, doing very significant things, and having a donkey present. Does anybody think that there might be something interesting there? The Father just does things randomly. You see, I'm on a mission that we're not going to look at donkeys, because I call somebody a donkey, and people know me long enough, they know that's a compliment. Because it really is. But in the Western world, that's not a compliment anymore, is it? Steve loves calling me a donkey because he thinks it's not a compliment. I just kidding. It's just going to pop his bubble after today. No. Now, it is true that this animal is stubborn and self-preserving. Does anybody know any other creation of the Father's that might be stubborn and self-preserving? And dog lovers know it's not cats, right? Okay. So, I just want you to have a look at this for a sec. You know, sometimes someone may have gone before you, right? You see how he was pushing the others through? You can watch the others arguing. In today's modern world, we're doing this on keyboards and everything else. And somebody every once in a while is going to come along and go, you know what? Whoa, on down there, just put it in. We like to pack. By the way, in saying that, how many volunteers have we got here today? Not the football team, whatever it is. How many volunteers we actually have? Interesting. I'll give you a hint. How many of the volunteers came through the Cumberland Gap? This is the history of this beautiful state. You see, there once was a time, right? And the reason why I raise this is, are we there for each other? Because you know there's some incredible history in this state for us to know. Let's take a look at a few things. Donkeys have exceptionally good hearing in desert environments. Donkeys are not easily startled and have a keen sense of curiosity. Do you know they actually won't retreat where a horse will? It's interesting. Anybody here ever had donkeys or owned donkeys? Nice. Donkeys will reason, then make decisions based on their safety. This is often why we think they're stubborn. Is it possible they could see something we don't? That doesn't mean they've read it right, but that's what you could be seeing. Very smart and loyal companions. Is anybody, did you really know this? They actually are. We're going to look at that a little bit. Great peripheral vision and see well at night. Think of these things. Would this all be handy in a spiritual journey? Just keep thinking. Have a long lifespan, sometimes over 30 years. well-trained donkey is easily ridden and handled by both women and children. Much easier than a horse. A little bit easier to get stuff on it, get stuff off it. Think about you're trying to bring out a people, a nation, hundreds of thousands, millions, potentially. And you're sitting there and you're going through and you need to have everybody mobile and functional. What creature would you need? Donkeys learn best by using words with accents to teach them, spending them time showing them what to do. Shema is to hear and... Donkeys are often used for working on narrow paths in vineyards, even to this day. Donkeys are stronger than a horse of its same size. Donkeys have an incredible memory. Incredible stuff. In fact, they've done studies where the animal is actually able to remember where it's going, even with changes in the landscape. Up to 25 years later, it's only walked the route once. Donkeys don't like being kept on their own. However, a single donkey will quite happily live with goats. That's actually true. I mean, what's the odds of that? 100% really, if you're the creator, I guess. In ancient times, they were often used to protect sheep. Donkeys will protect and ward off an attack by a wolf or other predators in order to allow the rest of the herd to escape to safety. If you want to protect your herd, and they did this in your Bible, what they were using those donkeys for is to protect from predators, wolves. You wanted donkeys around. I'll tell you what, if you've ever actually seen footage of a donkey seriously protecting something that it's actually put around, the footing's too disturbing to show you what it will do to that creature. They don't play around. Manning, who I think it was Manning, had it in a statement often used, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. I have no time for wolves. None. Now, somebody struggling and having a different opinion and working through matters of their faith, I got all the time in the world for. That's discipleship. How are you going to know a wolf? How are you going to be able to discern that if we don't grow up and mature? Right now, you've got yourself a good donkey. Rabbi Donkey. I like that. No. I know. I'm just enjoying it while I can, all right? I know it all comes to an end soon enough. This is the one chance I get, right? He's not having any more guest speakers after this. So. Donkeys in a herd will groom and look after each other. Ooh, some overtones. Think Galatians 6. Ancient evidence of these animals being buried with their masters in the Hebrew culture. Whoa. What kind of esteem would an animal have to be buried with it? You walk 30 years and appreciate what that animal got you through. Does anybody think that's pretty high respect? I came to the conclusion in my life that Yah loves donkeys. Will you receive that as a compliment? It's an honor. But we're not in the horse state yet. He announced himself in king on top of what? Yeah. He's coming back as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and he's riding a horse. Is it possible that we were seeing a picture of the groom and the bride while they're both sharing the fallen state 2,000 years ago, announcing themselves? Is it possible that we're going to see the glorified state of them together? What are we actually seeing in Scripture? We're not going to be donkeys state all the time. But I promise you, if we can just not think of ourselves something that we're not, and just get on with the business of growing and helping and learning and doing what he's asked us to do, then it allows me to do what I've been called to do, what Rabbi Steve has been called to do, what the people here that, you know, are working diligently to make this happen. Everything we do matters. We all have different things we're called to. Okay. So what is the servant donkey? So I just bring this to the year, the colt, the donkey, the male. So servant, leader, donkey. I like to say that in that phrase because I had to learn something. I just liked leader all the time. That one's easy, right? Everybody wants to be a leader in the body of Messiah, and the ones that generally tend to want to be that may never have been one before. Because I'll tell you, it's not fun sometimes. Does anybody know it's not fun? Do you want to see some of the things that people want to say? Yeah, they get yeah, just think about, I can tell you some of the things that he receives. Do you want me to read some of the stuff that I received because somebody's listened to a message from the donkey? You want to live with that? Edify those who are serving, as imperfect as it is. Who here loves their rabbi? Then tell him. Nagid, a leader, a ruler, a prince, ibid, slave servant, slave servant. So you're really sort of seeing this. Okay, yes, it's a donkey, but it's a leader. Okay? And it's serving. Okay? It's maturing, it's growing, it's able to. You try and pack your tents and whatever else they needed to keep moving. When the Father says you're going to move, you try packing up a cat with that stuff. Okay. Why does everybody want to have the position? I mean, I don't like herding cats. They go everywhere. You know, we need to actually become this thing he wants us to be. So those that are helping and helping each other along the way is going to become pleasing in our Father's eyes. I am seeing a lot of stuff right now out there in the body right now that is just terrifyingly ridiculous. It's hurting his people. Let's not be a part of this. So my questions to the Father was, well, how can we do this? Now I've got here Hasatan's greatest tricks. We've got some really interesting, and this is just my way of saying, who's the author of confusion? Hasatan. Okay, so we've got this whole image that's been based around something in this whole Christian journey. And in a lot of people's mind, this is what Messiah has become. It's been sown. It's been, you know, okay? And Steve and I do very disturbing teachings around the false Messiah. Israel's been guilty of something over the thousands and thousands of years as a people, making him in their own. Okay, here is the final combination of something. There's something going on right now, hiding, okay, our true identity. Who and what is Israel? You gain. I don't need to labor this because you are being given food. Good food. He's hidden the true gospel. Is this about a house restored and a marriage covenant? Or are we just going to make this about, I get my get out of hell card free because God plans on torturing me forever? Because that's why he created me, right? The gospel that's being preached right now around the world is sick. It's grotesque and it does not represent our Father. I don't know how this became what it did other than Hasatan's pretty good at his job. But the Ruach is going to convict us of missing the mark. And we're going to see things that we need to see. Disguised our true enemy. So what is the real spiritual battle? We don't need to get into all of this, but all of this has created a whole bunch of noise. I have a little quote here by Albert Einstein that I really believe is a truth. When the solution is simple, Yah is answering. This is one of the greatest minds we have known in modern history. Now think about this. Is it just possible that the author of confusion is complicating everything? Do you know, I spend as a teacher so much of my time trying to unravel the complicated mess. just so I can explain to somebody, because they're fighting all this stuff in their head. They got all this stuff in their head, and you're actually saying something quite simple. It's just right here. And they're like, no, it can't be, it can't be. Yes, it is. You just don't want to listen to it. You don't want to read it. Let's be honest with what the problem is. Anybody experience that? Don't we love his word and his truth when it's just, man, it's giving us what we need or helping us or the wisdom or whatever? Isn't that wonderful when we experience that from the word? How about when it's actually correcting and reproofing us? Who loves that? Oh, you liars. That is not true. Okay? Do we appreciate correction? Yeah. You see, if we start to mature, we'll start to realize that he reproves and chastens that whom he loves. Yah loves donkeys. So we're going to experience this, right? It's a good thing, but doesn't mean we necessarily like it. And when Rabbi Steve corrects me, I'm not, I'm there on the video going, no. But this is what happens. It's okay, and you're going to do this with each other. Work it through, but do we have a safe place to do this? I believe something's been taken away from us. In 2 Corinthians 1:12, for our rejoicing is this, the testimony of our conscience, that in simplicity and sincerity, not with fleshly wisdom, by the grace of Elohim, we have our conversation in the world, and more abundantly to who? That's right, each other. So why are we going to complicate this? Because somebody's teaching us to do it. In 2 Corinthians 11:3, the example being made here went right to the deception of the garden. But I fear lest by any means of the serpent deceived Eve through his subtlety, so that your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Messiah. Do you mean this whole thing's going to be about adding, taking away, imagination, building a whole bunch of Talmud? And when I say Talmud, we're not just going to pick on Jewish Talmud. Does anybody know there's lots of Christian Talmud out there? Teachings and precepts of men. This is sitting on both sides. Is all Talmud bad? No. There's actually some good teachings and precepts, right? So we've got to just understand, though, that every man is who's true in all of this? Yeah. Let Yah be true and every man a liar. You see, we need to know that a desperately wicked heart that's doing this is building on his truth. Now, I'd suggest to you something called sanctification is going to play a major role whether it produces good or bad Talmud. I'm producing Talmud right now. Do you understand that? Yeah. So if I just want to be against Talmud, well, then we better shut that live stream off. The question is my Talmud reflecting his truth? That's the issue here. And what I'm saying is the warning from both sides of the river, okay, is it sits. There is some pretty nasty Babylonian stuff on this side of the riverbank, the Christian journey, whatnot, and there's some pretty nasty Babylonian Talmud on the Judeo-Messianic Hebrew root side. Does anybody know that I don't like labels? I don't accept them. Oh, you're Messianic. No, I'm not. Oh, you're Hebrew roots. No, I'm not. Oh, you're Jewish. No, I'm not. Oh, you're Christian. No, I'm not. I don't think I'm taking any of these labels when I stand in front of the one who will judge the heart. Why am I accepting it now? Who's teaching me to do this? Now, that doesn't mean we can't identify ourselves in a way and understand something. Like, the Donkey Stables or Bible Pathway Adventures or MTOI. That's okay to have that. But when we take that and place it above his truth, do you see where we could get in problems? If we're accepting something and then we start embracing some of the wonky Talmud that gets on both sides. That's the caution. So we've got quite a little thing to walk through, and the Father is saying you're going to need some servant leadership to help on that journey. That's all. Okay. 30,000 plus denominations. Just really quickly on this. Everything you can think of in the true Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is going to sit under one of these three things. Now, this is a big deal, and again, I've been having to strip everything down. But here basically is we have a replacement theology that is sitting in trying to understand our Elohim from a biblical perspective, where a literal issue is no longer relevant and is now spiritual allegory only. That makes up a big chunk of the so-called believing world out there. This is a house eternally rejected. You comfortable with that? Not what I read. How did we buy into that? How about this one? Separatist theology. The absolute vast majority of everything you will see in evangelical movements, charismatic movement, all that side of that is actually affected by this. People in the land of Israel and the church are completely separate entities, both physically and spiritually. A house eternally separated. You comfortable with that? So we're not comfortable with a house eternally rejected. We're not comfortable with a house eternally separated. Doesn't sound right, does it? Here's what's interesting, though. There's a restored theology, and his people are considered Israel. Now, I'm not saying there's not a land promised. I'm not saying I have very good Jewish brethren right now in the modern state of Israel. So this is not what we're talking about here. What I'm talking about is that the Bible defines who Israel is. Do we agree with that? His word defines it. Okay. All right, not the United Nations, in the last one of that. His word defines it. That doesn't mean Israel's not in the modern state of Israel. I have brothers there and sisters right now that I communicate with and love dearly. But we're not going to confuse these two things. Now, who's the author of confusion? Okay, would Hasatan like to confuse this one? Because, if you don't understand what you're reading and what we call, or, I guess the greater portion of the Tanakh and the Torah, what we call the Old Testament, if you don't know who Israel is, do you know that most of that thing's going to read third person? Wow. So we're going to take the word of Elohim and read it as if it was to someone else. My goodness. How's that for some trickery? This one's interesting, though. There's a covenant, and apparently his people are going to be restored through this covenant, made new through the shedding of the Messiah's blood, the wild olive tree being grafted back into the cultivated olive tree. Now this is, and again, I'm just trying to do this one, and believe me, we're really, really overviewing this for the sake of time. A house eternally restored. Which one in your spirit, because all of you can think of that's out there in the religious Babylonian systems that are polluting and affecting everything you can think of, and what we call the believing world, is either going to fall under a house eternally rejected, a house, eternally separated, or a house eternally restored. Which one sits right in your spirit? Okay. These are the things that I encourage you to do and I encourage others to do. You don't have to agree with everything the donkey says. And that's okay. All right? You have to agree with everything Rabbi says, but not the donkey. Okay. All right, you said all this. All right, these are the things. Please do them. Do them with each other. Stop arguing. Help each other through that one. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Hebrews 5:9. Although he was a son and learned obedience through what he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation to all who obey him, being designated by Elohim the high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Order in there, by the way, back in the Hebrew, is referring to the voice of the righteous king. Wow. Now let's think about this. We have an author of our salvation that's perfecting this process through your better life now. There's all this stuff. There's some stuff going on out there. This is going to become, are we here to sell something? Let's just keep looking at this. We have justification, sanctification, glorification. I'd suggest to you that our process of our salvation is being worked out on the sanctification plane of our lives, and it is where the sovereignty of man and Elohim is allowed to meet. It's called your life. And we need to figure this out. This is the bit we get to play in. We have the justification, the blood that's covering me right now that is allowing me this journey. I have we got the ultimate CEO with a mop in his hand. He didn't ask me to go through anything he wasn't willing to do himself, and at a much higher level. This is an incredible Elohim we have. So we keep on in this process. I just want to talk about these 3 C's. The 3 C's of religion: convince, control, convert. Talk into, win over. Direct the behavior, cause a person to do what you want, to have the power over, to direct actions and function, and a person to act or function in a certain way. Convert, cause to change in form, character, or function. Now I'm going to suggest to you this, okay? That the religious world is operating under those 3 things. I see them in opposition to Scripture. That doesn't mean we're bringing chaos, we don't have leadership, and we don't have structure. Oh, no. I'm saying that there's something going on here that is in opposition to Scripture. Who does the convincing in this? Does anybody know John is? What's the role of the Ruach? Conviction of sin, missing the mark. Structure of righteousness, sound judgment. Whose job is that? Is it yours? Is it mine? Is it Rabbi's? You're not standing in front of me when this is over, nor him. However, we will give an account on what we did on his behalf. Please don't make life any more difficult than need be. These are things that religion does. And I'd suggest to you that somebody, our king, is saying, will I even find the faith on my return? Will I even find it? That's interesting. Does anybody interested why our Messiah would say, will I even find the faith? Does that mean there's going to be a lot of it? This is fascinating. But we have billions of people claiming they've got truth right now. And the Creator's actually going, I'm going to struggle to find the... So apparently there's going to be a remnant woken up that's going to start to actually get back, going to enter into a place of repentance, teshuvah, and start to go, you know what? Maybe I didn't get this thing exactly right. And I need to repent. We're on this journey to know whether we're in the faith. But we get this, willingly ignorant groups. I call them wigs. Now this is what we face. We face this along the way. Okay, anybody ever had this? I'm out of here. You're trying to share what the Father might be bringing into your life, maybe what rabbis taught, whatever is going on. He's doing something, and this is the reaction of somebody you love. Maybe even somebody who claims to be a believer. Has anybody ever had that? That doesn't sound so good. I don't want to hear this. Yet you're trying to give them something. How about this one? How about that one? Oh, interesting. How about this one? How about that one? See, we're going to face this environment. But the angle I'm going to ask you to listen to, do you know that this is all in a believing context? Oh, you don't get to blame Rome, those outside the camp. This is us. Are we doing this to each other? Steve and I often talk about these things. There's Steve and I. No, I just kidding. We're both trying to get in here as best we can. But this is what I'm seeing. I'm right, you're wrong, all this kind of rubbish. Do you know, when I started to get in the river stubbornly, I started to realize, my goodness, I need to repent. I've got a lot of leaven in the house. The Moedim, the week of unleavened. Oh, and we get the leaven out and it's what? Packed away for the next day? What happens to that leaven? It's burned. I counsel you to buy gold from me, refined in the fire. The fires of our lives. Think about this. What is the purpose of it? Could it possibly be to get rid of the leaven in our lives? Is it possible we've learned a lot of stuff that needs to go? So I'm suggesting we get in the river and help each other swim. I believe this is what they're doing. Look at this. We can take the flying fox. Anybody hear the flying fox before? I know some of you here that walk with some of the teachings, or if you've heard my teachings, this is nothing new to you, but you're going to have to listen to it again. Does she look unhappy? No. Way. I now know the truth. I've arrived. I'm on the flying fox. Only to arrive on the other side of the river thinking that it's all good. And guess what can happen? You could actually pick up a whole bunch of new Talmudic stuff that's not lining up with truth and still not gotten rid of the old stuff. Do we have less or more chance or propensity for division and argument in the body with that occurring? Let's not take the flying fox. Let's get off these hamster wheels. You know, I watch people focus. I'm not going to go into that too much, but here I've got a picture of a car. Now think about this. They hit a telephone. Anybody see a car hit a telephone pole? How big's the gap on either side of that pole? How'd they hit it? What's going on? What were they focused on? Do you know, I've done professional driving course. You know what they say? Focus on where you want to go. I'd say to you, that unless that's where they wanted to go, I hope not. But I'd say to you, they were focused on, don't hit the telephone pole, don't hit the telephone pole, smash. We can do this, can't we? Maybe that's what their view looked like. The struggles of your life. It's not so hard to hit it now, is it? You see, think about the perspective of what we're dealing with. Is your focus on him and his ways? More of him is less of? Yeah. Not less of me is more of him. We've been duped into something, not to follow his ways, but to get into the 3 C's of religion and make it all about me. And it's selfish. It's not focused on him, and he knows the state you're in. Let's keep going, keep looking at his ways, and watch him clean up your life. You think you can do it? I thought I could do it. Failed. I'm going to let him do it. Sell the wheel. Get off this thing. But again, people say, how can I do it? How can I come out of her? This Babylonian influence, if anybody's heard my teaching, if not, go and listen to Mystery Babylon and Spiritual Babylon and things. I talk about it in great detail. The point I'm making here is I don't know anything that's not affected. And there can't be 1,000 truths and 30,000 truths and whatever amount of truths. There's only one truth, right? So we need to work together to get there and to find it. Everything's being infected. I call them spiritually transmitted diseases, or STDs. We've all been collecting them. Nice, isn't it? Hey, don't get me wrong. This is the Father's way. Who talks about whore of Babylon? Prostitute. Okay, is this... You want to take this up, you take it up with him. This is his examples. How about this one? This all leads to spiritually arrested development. Remember we talked about emotionally arrested development? Do you know that we can experience spiritually arrested development if we don't learn to grow and deal with this? And that's just sad. Okay? This is the state we get in. The narrow gate, thlebo, affect, crushing, suffering, tribulation. Let's now read Matthew 7, 13, 14. Enter in by the narrow gate. Whoa. Enter in by your what? Wow, your affliction, your crushing. For the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, second death. And those who enter in it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Now I want to say something. Is that an easy sell gospel? It isn't, is it? This is not an easy sell gospel. So we're not going to go. You imagine having that, right? Steve, next year has the, come to the suffering conference. The true gospel, if we're honest with it, is a beautiful, beautiful thing, but it's going to require some refining. So you don't make a lot of money off of doing that, do you? because you're not actually selling something that all of us are going, man, I just, yeah. So this is a process which I believe our Messiah knew to pattern. He knew to pattern this. He said, you know what? I know the state you're in. I'm going to come and model something, and it's to help you through this because, by the way, donkey, you're not going to do this willingly. What are donkeys? Stubborn and self-preserving. I like self. Every morning I get up, guess who I wash? Guess who I feed? So do you. Now, we have times when we're not happy with ourselves. That's very different. The issue is self-sovereignty. I've been on the throne of my life, and the issue is am I learning to get off it? Because the moment I learn to get off the throne of my life, I might be kneeling before the throne. This is an interesting journey. I know you get lots of that. Author of our salvation. For it was fitting for him and who by all things, how many things? All. Bring in many sons to glory, should make the founder of their salvation perfect through suffering. In something as a child, and I grew up, and I had a job. And in my job, my job at 11 years old, between 11 and 12, was to take sprinklers and move them through the orchards. I grew up in a very beautiful area of Western Canada, and the orchards there, many apple trees and peaches and cherries and things like that. And so I had a job making some spare money to, because Mom said, well, you're not getting any unless you go out and work, so that was it. So if I wanted spare money, that was it. I'd go out and do it. And so I got myself this job, and I would move the sprinklers in the orchard. That was my job. Now, what was interesting about this is I didn't like my job a lot of times. You get up and, and you're sitting there and you're moving these, and at that time, you have to move pipes and unhook them and do this, and I'm dragging them through the orchard, whinging and whining and doing all sorts of things, and I'm going through, and eventually I'd make it through the orchard. It was the greatest moment of the afternoon, I'm out of there. I'm running to jump on my bike and go down for a swim or, catch up with friends, whatever. But I would be going through this day after day after day after day. And I look back now what the Father was doing. At the time, I'm just oblivious to everything. But in the fires of my life, he started to show me something. Even a memory like that, I'll bet you'll have them for your life. I'm just sharing with you mine. But it seemed to have an amazing relationship to what I would eventually come to learn in this process of discipleship. You know what I did with these pipes? I tended to them. I didn't plant this. I didn't create the seed that created that tree. Nor the soil it was in, nor the fruit that would come from it, nor the water it was being given. I was purely tending the orchard. I was a vessel and being included. So when the fruit, and it would come in abundance, and all this fruit's there, and I used to think, wow, look at how well I've done. Little 12-year-old. Look at all the fruit. I'm awesome. Now I look back and I go, you didn't do anything. You just obeyed the orchardist. Move the sprinkler here. Do it again here, 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 here. And guess what? If you keep doing and listening to my instructions, not only will you get paid, but some good stuff's going to happen. And it's got nothing to do with you, except you listening to me. Now, this is fascinating. I am working this through, and in the fires of my life, I'm going, oh my goodness. Was I taking credit for something that was never mine? How successful would I have been if I'd stood at that tree and went, grow fruit? Didn't listen to the orchardist, didn't move the sprinklers, didn't do it, just grow fruit. Magic, poof. Who thinks there would have been a big crop? Sometimes when I'm misunderstood, or maybe rabbis misunderstood, or you're misunderstood, whatever it might be, sometimes there's a reason we say what we say for a reason. And it doesn't always sound good, does it? But know this, there's a reason, at least as best as we understand it at that time, and don't worry, he'll get around to correcting and reproofing us too. Galatians 6, 1-3. Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourselves, lest who be tempted. So when you think you're getting all high and mighty, and somebody's going through a fire, I'll tell you what, by the way, when the person's in the fire, a true crushing from the Father, you're actually the one that's in greater spiritual danger, just so you know. Because this person who's in a true place of repentance and a contrite heart before the Father, the enemy's not getting anywhere near that. So don't, while you're sitting there feeling sorry for your brother or sister who's in a crushing, oh, by the way, Scripture's telling you that you not be tempted. How about Gethsemane? What did Yeshua say to them? He didn't say, get up, please don't, you know what I'm going through. What did he say? Get up and pray that you not be. Interesting. He wasn't the one that was anywhere near the deception of Hasatan at that point. But these three sleeping that were the closest to him in his Talmudim, they were. You see, we got to get this the right way around and how this works, because our salvation is going to be made perfect through our and let him determine it. You don't get to do that. Wouldn't you love to do that? Okay, I give this. You suffer this way. He knows what he's doing. We don't. Matthew 28, 19. And Yeshua came and said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to him. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations. Baptize them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Ruach, teaching them to observe all things I have commanded you. If you love him, you obey his. That's right. See, and behold, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Now, this is fascinating. We may be getting close to the end of this age, but we're not here to be playing those games. But our time is running out, whether we are or we're not, because we are fallen flesh, and we are sentenced to die but once. It's going to happen. So we're in this place right now. So we don't get out of it. Now, let's think about this. I was sitting there in the fires and the crushings of my life going, wait a minute, there's a 200-year period since the resurrection of who I believe was my Messiah, and I'm looking at it to when Catholicism started coming in, and I can't find anybody in the believing world talking about these 200 years. I'm struggling to find it in the history books. I'm struggling to find it in the education systems, and I'm struggling to find it everywhere. Oh, by the way, I'm looking at the believing world trying to find out where discipleship was being taught. I can see everything else there is, but where is discipleship? Yeshua patterned this. At least, arguably 70 weeks or over a 3-year period of ministry where he is patterning. Does anybody know of any more time he spent on than doing that? Try and think of any single event he spent more time patterning, doing. All of history is recorded in Scripture. Does anybody think he might have given some priority to something? I couldn't find it. Now, would you find that interesting? The period that was most affected by what he patterned, I can't find in the religious systems and the educational system. The thing that he actually patterned, I can't find being passed on. And his instruction was teaching him to observe all that I have. And I'm supposed to do this through a discipling process. I can't find it. Does anybody think that's kind of strange? This was his commandment. He didn't say go out and save the world, did he? Go out and make disciples of nations, because apparently we were going to become a witness, a light that people were going to be attracted to, or not. But when you've got to convince, control, convert, we call them crusades. We call them all of these things. When you got to do these things, whose job are we stealing? And we're taking something on our own shoulders, and we're not seeing some very good fruit as a result of this, are we? How about we get back to the business of actually learning to walk and love one another? Wouldn't that be, and in fact, I'd say to you, your Messiah instructed you to do so. So you can explain it to him if you don't want to get into that. You don't want to spend your time arguing, keyboard warrior. Just waste your life doing that. It's your choice, but I promise you, that doesn't put fruit on those trees. And in fact, when Yeshua saw Nathanael, right? We spoke about that. I forget, we had a conversation the other night. Anyway, when he saw that fruit standing under the fig tree, he said, behold, an Israelite with no guile in him. In other words, an Israelite with integrity. Wow. And this is being spotted underneath the fig tree. Do you think that's a coincidence that he's making that statement? He's calling Nathanael an Israelite. Get around this. Why would he do that? Was he maybe saying, this is the fruit I'm looking for? Just saying. You go look. Ephesians 4:13-15. Till we come into the unity of the faith, the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to measure the stature and the fullness of Messiah. That we are no more children. What were we? Children in shape? Yeah. Tossed to and fro and carried about by every wind of doctrine. By the sleight of who? Oh, you mean it's not the devil? Ooh, is this maybe pointing to Talmud? Be very careful what this is saying. Tossed to and fro, carried about every wind by sleight of men, cunning craftiness, where they lie in wait to deceive. Wow. And this is happening if we stay in this state, children. I think we want to grow up. I think we want to be in an environment that's going to feed us. But speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, Messiah. That people would start to see Messiah in us. And given to that process is a fivefold. But I'll tell you, we got some usurping going on in the body. I can't get into this today. But I'll tell you, leaders are sometimes some of the greatest, or can be often very responsible for usurping within the whole structure of the body. Men over other leaders. Women over the men. Children over the parents. If we don't start getting this order and this design right, we could get ourselves in trouble because it's not going to work any other way. There's a reason why we are given certain things. Ephesians 4:11-12 tells us, and he gave us some as apostles, some as prophets, some as evangelists, some as shepherds, some as teachers. Now look at this. For the what job? Oh, is it? We just know that the perfection was going to have what involved with it? Was it going to have some persecution? Oh, think about what these people are going to have to do. If they serve, if they truly serve, servant leaders in the body, they're going to be experiencing people around them that are being perfected, and it's going to include some suffering. You want to be a servant leader now? Do you really want to know what my life looks like on certain times and certain fronts? How about Rabbi Steve's? You want this? Love him. Let him do what he's been called to do. And those that are called into this place, do not do it. You know, in fact, when we look at this, we might not have a pyramidal structure, but there is leadership. There is structure. And they are placed amongst the sheep for a reason. And be thankful you have a true fivefold in this fellowship, in this ministry. Hebrews 13:7. Remember your leaders, those who speak to you the word of Yah. Wow. Do you have one that speaks to you the word of Yah? Do you know most of these characters, you see them out there? They don't even open their Bibles. Or they don't even reference it. I don't even know what they're doing, to be honest, half the time. But you listen to the teachings that will come from the true fivefold, and you're going to start to hear the word of Yah. Amen? Now, consider the outcome of their way of life and imitate their faith. It doesn't mean consider how much you can righteously judge them and how imperfect they are in the flesh. This is where I'm going to get a little tough, okay? It does not mean that. Think very carefully what you're doing when you're running around, hopscotching around going, I don't like what I've heard here. I'm going to go to this ministry. I'm going to listen to this teacher. I'm going to do that. Rabbi said something I don't like. I'm going to go here. Whatever. This will lead to folly. I promise you. Because the issue is you're taking undealt with emotionally arrested development and a spiritually arrested development, and you're taking it where? Ever you go. Oh, you can point the finger as you go out the door. Or you can learn to work through this and love each other. You can do it. You're here. How many people have traveled? How far have some of the people come here today? You got to get a bigger space, Steve, too, by the way. But I mean, how many people have done this? Because you are learning his way. There are so many people trapped, having their ears itched and tickled and every other imaginable weirdness that's going on out there, looking for somebody to itch their ears. In fact, they will heap upon themselves teachers who will itch ears. Do you know who's demanding it? Oh, what are we going to do? Just blame the false evangelists and everything out there? Should we blame them? Because I can tell you right now, the word is saying they are demanding it. So as long as they're demanding it, are we going to produce these characters we see? So maybe we might want to work in a process that stops creating the demand. Do you see how this works? They are judgment exposing our folly. Oh, let's just shoot them. Does anybody think there's a mirror involved in this? See, if we see the mirror, isn't it be wonderful? I just keep blaming everybody else. How about I look in the mirror and start to realize that if I can grow up and I can help others to grow up and you can grow up spiritually, that all of a sudden the demand for these characters is going to wane. You see, I know the Father uses the enemies of Israel, uses things as a part of his whole creation to try and get something through our thick, stubborn, self-preserving skulls. Filter, sorry. No filter. I can water this down. I'm going to finish up here shortly. Do you want me to water it down? No. Oh, really? Okay. That is very gracious. Hebrew 13:17. Those who keep watch. Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your souls as those who will give an account. Do you want to be a leader now? Do you want to be servant leader? No, seriously, that's coming at your Bema seat. I don't know about you, this is sobering to me. This is very sobering. I need and wish and want and desire to be in truth and to know who my Messiah is, because I am going to face him and I'm going to be giving account for even the words I'm speaking this day, and so are your leaders. Serve, love as hard as you can. Be pleasing to your King. Well, you've got a chance. Amen? Do you hear this? Do it. Let's be an example to a dying world, to a world that's being deceived by every religious folly that there is. All of these kinds of things. Let's be those people. Let's not just, to hear and do. Let's be that light. And I know many of you in here are. You are certainly to me. So you must be being to others, that's for sure. But I know I can improve wherever I am or think I am. Am I allowed to finish? Okay. So here we go. Now look at this. Let them do this with what? Joy. You've only ever seen joy on Rabbi Steve's face. Ouch. Ouch. Not easy, is it? Not easy for us to listen to a donkey either. Not easy on our response to these things. But we've got to figure this out. Because if we don't become the example of what's pleasing to our King, who's gonna? By the way, who's gonna do that? Oh, them. They'll do it. What if it's actually us? What if it's us that have to actually figure this out? And not with groaning, for what would that be of no advantage to you? So here's the warning that's coming from Paul. That, by the way, if you're not going to do this, by the way, this is not good for you. He already gets it. He's going, you're gonna, that is not good for you and your walk and your spiritual development and maturity. Because it's his way equals his truth equals his life. Ooh, remember the simplicity? Is it really that simple? I am the way, the truth, and the life. Isn't that just a glib little Sunday school statement? We got as Christians. Is it really actually this simple, powerfully deep? I didn't say his truth wasn't deep. But we are operating on a spectrum that is 1,000 miles wide and an inch deep, aren't we? And yet he's going, I'm gonna get you into this. We're going to press you. We're going to get some oil out of you so that the Ruach's got something to light. And if the Ruach gets oil from the crushing of your lives and it actually can light the path, do you know that's not only lighting the path for your walk, it could be helping to light the path for... Has anybody ever seen this? Matters of authority. Responsibility with no accountability. Don't worry, I'm getting some here with this because I'm giving you a brief summary and rundown of all the things we are seeing in this big mishmash of confusion by Hasatan. Broken families, systems, depression in the world, all these kinds of things. And we're all bringing this in. And yet we have truth, we have love, and we have the Ruach. We have a helper in all of this, and he's going to help us, and we have a fivefold. I've just labored. Everybody here is going to respect the fivefold? I know you already are. Even when it's not easy. Here we go. Responsibility with no accountability. Has anybody ever experienced that before? Somebody's making you responsible for something you were given, right? Oh, sorry, you're taking on responsibility and you actually have no accountability. You ever seen people do that? They shouldn't be there. This is happening all over the place. And this is a very difficult thing, especially for servant leaders to work with, because it's like, no, you're not ready, or you shouldn't be doing that, or whatnot. And then they get offended. Not because you can't get ready, not because you aren't going to be ready. Like, it's just, there's a call that has to be made. It's tantamount sometimes where, the keys to the car, and your 10-year-old's going, look, I want to drive today. Mom, Dad. What, do you give them the keys? No, you're a good parent, right? You're a good leader as that parent, caretaker. If you give them the keys, are you a good or bad parent? And if you give them the keys, could they hurt themselves and others? Does the child appreciate you're not going to let them drive that moment? No. See, there's a place where you have to do these things. You know it as parents. You know it in your own personal lives and the models that we have. You certainly, and it exists right throughout. There's just a spiritual version, which is, by the way, what's the weightier matter? Physical or... Yeah. So the physical is always teaching us something. When you see this playing out in the physical, just look at it and go, what's the Father teaching me? And you'll see it. I don't want to offend anyone. Does anyone know that? Who enjoys offending people? I don't. Nobody wants to offend somebody. You don't want to offend somebody, but sometimes you're going to have to say the truth. Do it with love, do it with respect, do it with care, do it with all of the things that we're told to do. But please, no, it's required. So we just are being refined, and hopefully we get better and better at this. How about accountability with no responsibility? Have you ever been doing something, right? You've not been given any responsibility, but somebody's making you accountable for the outcome. Have you ever experienced that? You're getting the blame. You had you weren't given any of the responsibility in the whole first place, but you're taking the blame. This is going on too. I'm going to suggest to you that responsibility on something then equals the accountability to what it is you've been made responsible, and therefore the authority starts to come. If you're a parent and you're responsible as a parent, then the accountability of how you raise those children is going to be on whose shoulders? The parents. Therefore, they need the authority. Do you understand how it works? Okay, so we want to be in this place where we are operating, where we have an understanding of our responsibility, that we know what we're accountable for as we do it, and therefore there's authority related to it. If there's a major event that's going on right now, who's the authority in this room? Right now is a major event that happens to this building, right now. Yeah, there he is. That's not fun to wear, and that's where it is. However, if there's a technical glitch that starts to occur right now with the live feed, who's the authority that I'm going to look to? Marty. You see, it doesn't take away this ultimate, right? You See, we just need to know that where you're given responsibility and you're going to receive accountability, you also must have the authority to carry it out. So we got to learn these kinds of principles and how it works as a body. Okay, what about my voice? When your views on a matter are not agreed with or acted upon right in the moment, this does not automatically mean you're not heard. So this is all going to happen. Well, think about this when you're talking to others. You might be telling a new believer what you're going through this, or you might be working with each other in the body in these matters and you're coming together. Just because somebody is not acting immediately in the moment doesn't mean that you didn't hear them, right? This could be the same thing at every level as we play out as a body. Grow people, not control people, to create this stable environment. Yeshua did these three things, and I believe, and you'll see this right throughout the Gospels, and I believe as we grow to the fullness of Him, we're going to see this. He asked questions all the time. Do you think He knew the answers or not? Why did He ask them? For whose sake? Correct. He's developing critical thinking. It is the Hebrew way. It's the Creator's way. He's preserved that. Western Greek Gnostic teaching does not work like this. Repetition. Did he ever repeat himself in many different ways to get a point across and demonstrate? Is that, yeah. Do you ever notice sometimes that you have to hear, does anybody have to hear something more than once maybe for it to start to sink in? Yeah. We're like that, aren't we? I got to hear things over and over and over again. Ask my wife ad nauseum before I'll listen. We're all guilty of this. Do you think the Creator knew what we needed? Do you think He knew that we needed to think about things, that we needed to hear it again? And do you think we need to have it relayed in a way in which I might be able to understand it? Parables. Yeah. This is what starts to come out through a fivefold and through you. You'll be able to see this just with any parents in the room. Do you see that pattern that was once in your life, or maybe right now? It's all there. This whole thing is pointing to how He's going to work with us and what He ultimately modeled. And when we start to mature in Messiah, we will do this spiritually. It will just come out of you naturally. I know when I put those three things up, every single one of you from a spiritual context and receiving food in this ministry, I know that you see Rabbi Steve in that, don't you? Do you know he's patterning? He's imitating the faith that was patterned once and for all given to the saints by Yeshua. Wow. Oh, don't we have to come up with the latest conspiracy theory or the latest this or that? It's tearing the body apart. Man. Don't think about an issue. Don't think. Don't learn. Don't grow. This is happening all the time in this environment. Yet what we're told and what He patterned was in Matthew 7:18, you will recognize them by their Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or from figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears, but a diseased tree bears. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Remember Nathanael, he's seen something, right? Aha, behold, an Israelite. Yeah, with no guile. No deception, integrity. Think about what's going on. What is the process eventually? Oh, but hold on. It's not in this moment. Oh, I didn't see this tomorrow. Oh, I'm the judge. Whoa. When I watered the orchards, let's go back to the orchard. When I watered those trees, did I immediately see the apples the day after I started the watering? No, I was going through a process. There was pruning going on. There was leaves growing. There was buds coming out. There was fruit. Like, did it all happen just in front of me? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is that I've watered, and then I'm going to go, no fruit, cut down that tree. If I do that, and I don't allow the process perhaps that I believe is patterned in discipleship, if I don't allow this, is it possible that I could hoon down that whole orchard and there won't be any fruit by the time I'm done with it? I need to really allow him to do the work, but I need to be able to do what I've been asked to do. And so do you. So we need to figure out what this actually is, what it looks like. I've given this in the example of the form of the tree because that's just simply the way it was delivered to me in the fires of my life. I'm sure there's a number of ways to do this. I also have actually a target, hitting the mark in Yara and missing the mark and this shooting of the arrows. But I'm just going to speak to you briefly just from the tree context. Now, this is actually ancient. I discovered, in fact, many components of the ancient Sanhedrin system and the whole Talmudim and how it was understood, they actually knew certain principles that occurred. But I can't get into all of that today. But what I can tell you is this. I believe that every single element you're seeing here is actually discipleship to one degree or another. The thing that varies is the intimacy of that. Does that make sense? And I believe our Creator knew this. And we have so many people out here. Anybody hear of the internet and YouTube and all that kind of stuff? This is the only place that they're living in. They've got no fellowship, not walking with anybody. They're not accountable to anything. They're just watching stuff randomly. Now, by the way, this is being live streamed and will go on the internet and YouTube. Oh, well, the donkey just spoke against that, so we better not be doing this. See, is YouTube the problem? No. And in fact, this has blessed many people with this ministry by what it's doing, and indeed some of the things that we do. And what we do with BPA and with the Donkey Speaks and everything else. So is the problem, do I just get rid of that because there can be weirdness out here? No, it's still a part of it. But if I go one ring in, we start to get to this wider fellowship environment. Guess what you're experiencing today gathering on Shabbat? Isn't that interesting? Is it less or more intimate than YouTube? More intimate. The people that have come and traveled to be here today to visit with your MTOI family, indeed, and to finally meet you and to meet Rabbi Stephen, all these kinds of things. Is this more or less intimate than what you've been experiencing? More. Are you enjoying the fact you came? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do this every week? We're working on it. Yeah. So these kind of things are really fantastic. But again, there's only so much intimacy that can happen in this on Shabbat, right? But this provides an opportunity to maybe start to walk with others a little bit closer. Now, I believe, and this is why I've got this white, I believe that the inside of the tree, this is what I believe I was shown, and what I've spent the last 8 years living and breathing and working on trying to understand and get it into my thick donkey skull, was that the center of the tree's been hollowed. See, it looks all right from the outside. It's a whitewashed tomb because these two things are still very much in function. But this thing has rotted on the inside. And we got counterfeits now that are occurring, especially in the small group fellowships. You'll call them life groups, home groups, cell groups, whatever groups. And they're all controlled by the mothership. And they all do their thing, and then you do this, and you do this, and you do this. There's no ruach needs to be found anywhere in this. Let's just produce the pamphlets and the materials and whatnot and build the empire. Anybody can do this. You just have to be good at doing. That doesn't mean you've done anything that's pleasing. If my measure of success is just the doing, is it possible I could be in for a shock when I stand in front of Messiah? Because apparently these people, by their own words, pleading at the throne, were what? Didn't I? And this is the believers. Wow. Let us not be in this space. So how does that happen? Well, I think he came down. He said, you know what? We're going to get you in. We're going to start to change these counterfeits. And what he was saying, but Chris, you need to live it. Oh, you're so busy being the guy, yapping at the front and being the leader and, all this kind of stuff. You've even given messages Don't worry, I wasn't hearing voices in my head. I'm just giving you a summary of the journey in my fire. But you've even given messages on discipleship. And do you know what I was experiencing during the fires of my life? Where is it in your life? You'll teach this? Whatever this is and whatever my understanding was, where is it in your life? And I'm like, and then I was looking at the fires of my life, and then I was looking at everything that was going on. I was thinking, my goodness. And he starts opening up the word. And eventually it was like, okay, I need you to go and live this. I need you to do it. And I'm thinking, this is your answer? There's nothing instant about this. I need help right now. I'm getting reproved. I'm getting corrected. I need a spiritual hug. And the Father comes up with whack. What were you doing? Now, I'm sorry, but to my little Christian brain, it's like, this doesn't look like love to me. Just like the kid getting a spanking from mom or dad. Do they yell out to you while they're being spanked? Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. We love you. Whack away. I mean, we're not in that place because of what? Maybe my spiritual, come on, we can say it, maturity. Yeah. You know, it's hard, okay, to be broken down and to go through this, especially as a man. Some of the women, I know you have your difficulties in your design, we have ours. But men, honestly, do you know it's hard for us to be vulnerable? Yeah. And it's hard, and we feel this need to protect and to fix things and to have solutions and all these kinds of things. And it's in our design, and that design's from the Father. It's needed, it's necessary. But you know something? What's going on in the world out there doesn't allow very much for that design to work through things. And sometimes we can fail, and we can hurt, and we can get it wrong. What do we do? Where do we go? That's just the men. The ladies have their design and how that plays out too. This was the space that I believe was absolutely put under attack. And the confusion was meant to attack the simplicity of what our Messiah actually modeled. Out of this environment, and he modeled it with 12. I'm sure he could have done a lot more, but I think he capped it at 12 for a reason. Maybe because we're not capable of being involved with much more numbers on this level of intimacy. Now, this one could have hundreds. This could have thousands. But this one, I think he patterned something for a reason. Amen? So we don't want to be making this bigger than it should be. If he kept it at 12, I think he was capable of more. I think maybe that's a good lesson. But here's the thing. This one breeds the Peter, the Jacob. Do you see it? Do you see him getting it? This is the one, the John, the Yochanan. This is the one that actually all of a sudden, because you know in the Garden of Gethsemane, in the crushing of his life, did he actually bring all 12 of them right to him close? No, he brought 3. And those 3, he was closest to. And they had a problem staying awake and being and walking with him in his moment of crushing. But they were there because they loved him or they didn't. As best they knew how. But he's warning them, you guys are the ones that can get attacked here. Just be awake. I'm being crushed. You know, when I was going through the crushing of my life, and anybody who's gone through any serious crushing, do you know what? The enemy wasn't coming within 1,000 miles of that place. That's how close. I'd never been that close to the Father in my whole life. I don't know if I ever will be again until I see him. But I can tell you, the intimacy and the things that I experienced at that time, I am not holy and righteous enough to live that 24 hours a day. Now, Yeshua might have been an incredible vessel when you're at that state. But I know what I was able to see and to hear finally as that was occurring to me. Now, as you're going through this, he started to teach me that you want to be with these people. Everybody hear Galatians 6? What? Sharing one another's burdens, thus fulfilling the law of... Okay, so as we do this, you mean it was quite possible that those who chose to walk with me started to share in my oil? Whoa. Oh, I don't want to be burdened with that. I don't want to be, oh, no. He's saying the exact opposite. I need you to walk together enough so that, well, you're all going to experience a burdening in a loving, accountable environment. You're not only going to get the oil, the crushing of your life, you're going to get the oil as a part of the crushing of what? Thus fulfilling the law of Messiah. Was there 10 virgins that had oil in their lamps by the time he came? No, 5. You've just been given the answers how they got that oil. Do you think it was coincidence that Gethsemane, the place crushing? Do you think it's a coincidence, the olive oil? Do you really believe all of that? Just look at what it's saying. And I was going and the tears are running down my face and I'm going, Father, what's going on? And I had people that would desert me, betray me, my trust being broken at levels you wouldn't believe. I can tell you this man's had his fair share. Many of you will have had your fair share. We're going to have to live through this stuff. You want to walk with who's your brother's keeper? Are you really going to walk with them? Or it just looks good? Do you know I'm easy to love when everything's going right? Do you want to love me when it's not? How about when I'm in a bad mood? Or I'm not getting it right? Or I'm not saying it right? Can you love me then? Can you love me when the Father says it's time to crush me? Will you walk with me? Will you walk with each other? Because I'll tell you, if we can figure this out in a discipleship environment, if we truly are willing to do this, I believe we will see incredible things. The harvest is great, but the workers are. Let's do this. In this place, it can be very safe where sometimes men just need to share. Do you know that you can share things in this space and you can actually be causing other people to stumble? Because that's the level you have to go to, and now you're not even being wise. You just said something that shouldn't really have been said to the rest of them. They're not walking close enough to even have the right to hear that. Do you know what? I've seen him, Christian, poor person, I won't get it. This was years ago. And they got hauled up to the front of the church, and they're sitting there going, this person has overcome X, Y, B, and C. And there's 500 people going, whoa. Can we just allow this to be healthy and wise? And I'm not saying that somebody might not give a testimony one day and do that, but is it my right to do it? See, if I'm to be trusted, is it my right to go and tell what someone has entrusted with me as a part of their walk and their crushing and go and just willy-nilly share that out? Oh, let's throw it on social media. Oh, let's attack them. Am I to be trusted with the keys of the kingdom? Keys of the car? You think about our character as a man, as a woman, at everything, and a safe environment to do this in. Look at this. The most intimate relationship we can have. This is demonstrating the physical by husband and a wife. The two shall become one. And this is the most intimate thing we say. And Yeshua doing this with the whole body of Israel, right? Father, that they may be one as we are one. And so we see this pattern in our shadow picture of the marriage covenant in our physical lives. The Sanhedrin didn't get this at the time. They were trying to work this through, and they're so full of Talmudic. And Yeshua is saying to them, you do err not knowing the scriptures. They're going on about the woman being passed down 7 times. And she's being married. They didn't even get it. You do err not knowing scripture. You're not married or given in marriage in the age to come. See, you don't understand. You're so focused just on the physical that you're not seeing the spiritual. Do you understand? He's making that point. Would anybody think that's offensive to somebody who can quote the book of Deuteronomy? You do err? Not knowing the word? Whoa. Okay, so this intimate relationship here, I would suggest to you, is a journey. And it comes and works as a tree. This is where the water comes from. Who's the water? The living water? Yeshua. If we take this out, is it possible it could start? Do you know that, have you ever seen a tree that looked perfectly good on the outside and it was rotten on the inside? So you may not know what's going on in the inside of that tree, but you can start to see, I don't see any good fruit coming from this thing, but it looks all right. This is the simplicity. But is it deep? It's deep. But this is the simplicity that's found in Messiah. Let's keep it. He knew what we would go through and what we would live. Mark 9:3-5. And he sat down and called the 12. And he said to them, if anyone would be first, he must be the last and the servant of all. Let's reduce the noise. We're going to try and finish up here. I'm going to bring this to a close. Let's reduce the noise. The pattern and principles of Yeshua have not changed. Only the environment has. Do you think that our environment should dictate the pattern and the principles that our Creator, our Messiah, modeled? Why is that happening? Why does social media, all these things, all the environment give me a right to do it another way? No. Is it possible that these changing environments determine his pattern and principles, or should his pattern and principles determine what the environment looks like? Do you see which way should it look? I have no problem that Rome is acting like a bunch of buffoons right now out there. No problem. But we claim to know the truth, to have access to the truth, to walk in the light. We claim this. And we're acting the same way? Whoa. Because you know what? All the fingers and the things I'm seeing being pointed at Rome, do you know I'm seeing that character and that behavior and those things inside the believing body, or claiming to be the believing body? So something's amiss here. How do we work this through? How do we even call it out in a healthy and wise manner and grow people? We need fellowship out issues before offense, deception can take root. This is a big one. We're not in an environment. We're trying to address often intimate issues, emotionally arrested development issues, and we're trying to address it on the wider rings. See how that doesn't work? But if I'm in an environment that is truly accountable, and truly trusting and safe environment that doesn't have subject to social media, that's not subject to, the Chinese whispers and all of this kind of stuff. Is it possible that my offense or my issue or the deception or whatever it is happening in a place that is safe? And you walk it out and you walk it through. Is there still going to be a fivefold required in that? Yes, it feeds directly to it. It's going to be a fivefold is required at every single level of this ring. It is called to serve it all. But this doesn't mean that it's supposed to be in some unhealthy environment or just stay in one particular level. This was the thing the Father was showing. If they do not take root and have ongoing accountability in a loving midrash environment. So if we do this, you actually can see people, sanctification, start to get off their throne. Because you know what? You know what children can do when they get sick with something that was bitter in their belly? What do? Do you know you get a bunch of guys together that are working through issues? You got spiritual vomit flying all over the place. Yeah, it's just going off the walls and everything else. And then we have to deal with this, or they start acting like little girls or whatever it might be, and you get all this stuff, and and the Father's going, look at this thing. Do you know when I first was learning this, I couldn't believe it. I would come home some nights and go, Father, this surely can't be of you. That freak show I've just been a part of for the last 2 hours cannot be your way. And I was starting to this can't be. And then all of a sudden you started to see that it got less and less, and people were starting to work it out. And all of a sudden when you got to that, they started to learn to love each other and to walk together. All of a sudden they stopped attacking the donkey for what he was saying and started to actually look in their lives. And all of a sudden, I started to see this pruning process and this tilling of the ground. And that very vomit was actually nutrients. Once it started to get the life of Yeshua, do you see the very thing that was being vomited out actually was the tilling ground, the part of the ground process. Yes, it was dirty work. But when it started to come, and all of a sudden I'm watching this, I'm going, okay. And you're looking at it, tree's still barren. And then all of a sudden you keep going. And you prune, and you prune, and you prune. I was pruning for about 3 years. Interestingly enough, that's a biblical timing. And I started then to see something happen. I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden, the buds started to come out. And all of a sudden, the Father's going, stop pruning. You bashed them long enough. And all of a sudden, it started to happen. And do you know what I'm now getting a chance to enjoy? And this is no credit. Remember the little kid in the orchard? Did I have anything to do with the fruit? No. This is to his glory. But I am seeing men and women grow like I have never witnessed in my walk. I believe some of those, and we're on a process right now where we're trying to figure out what this could look like on a wider scale. Because last year the Father was encouraging me to take it further. And there's some people in this room that have been a part of the initial piloting stages of how we can look at this, bringing this stuff forward. And we're having discussions, my brother, Rabbi Stephen, we're having discussions right now. What can this look like? How can we make things look and work? Does anybody here want to be a part of getting back to the ancient past and being a part of discipleship in your lives? We can do this, but we must do it with structure and his ways and a respect for one another. It's not a free-for-all, but it's not a controlling mothership. So what is it? What is this river thing? So we got to work it through. We're trying to understand this, but I'll tell you, there are some beautiful people here that have been a part of my journey over the last year in trying to understand the international discipleship stuff. In the donkey stable, and this is where I'm going to finish up and leave you with a thought process. Where this thing has, these people, and they're here, some of them driven, have blessed and fed into my life. You've driven a long way to be here, some of you. You're part of MTOI ministry, yet you've been in a stable. Some of you. Others of you, have been introduced and seen MTOI for the first time. Wow, a body again. Imagine that. But I'll tell you something. It wasn't just me giving something to you. There have been people blessed by this ministry that have been a part of what we're trying to figure out to say. And that was a part of the pruning and things that had gone years before it ever made it to that stable, and it's coming through and blessing me. Do you see? But we need to allow this environment to get it to such a place where the world looks in and goes, my goodness, they're not playing games anymore. I'm done with the games. 9 years ago, I literally was at the Father's. I'm done. I'm out of here. Not with my faith. I'm done trying to serve this thing because I either don't get it, I'm not worthy, or I'm just frustrated with it. Find someone else. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the hypocrisy. I'm sick of the backstabbing. I'm sick of everything that's going on right now and every amount of weirdness you can think of. And then the unbelievers stand back and go, look at you, and we can't even see what we look like anymore. And then we have the nerve to blame them for not wanting to have a part of it. Like, what is going on here? My belief was this, and this is how simple it gets, okay? Curtis, stop walking alone. Do you know there are people that are lonely and disconnected from the body right now all over the world? I'm hearing from them all the time. I know Steve is too. Some of you have been there. Anybody here felt lonely and disconnected from the body as the Father's starting to bring some truth into your, yeah. This is real. People are hurting, and they need a body to walk with. They don't need your self-righteous bashing. They need to see Messiah in you, to see his truth, to see his way, that they may experience his life. So how are we going to do this safely? Here's a stable. This is why, playing on the whole donkey thing, but I started to discover that, what it was that we were actually learning and doing. A structure for lodging, feeding of horses, donkeys, cattle, sheep, and goats, etc. Firm, solid, steady, secure, fixed, strong, fast, stout, sturdy, safe, moored, anchored, snuck down, immovable, well-built, well-constructed, substantial, very stable tent. What was the first thing being given to the house of Israel as they were going through? What was it called? Tabernacle. And then eventually started to receive what? The foundation of the temple. And then eventually it would be seen in his body. You see, we are getting this whole journey. Is it stable, though? Because everything along the way is about getting something in place that Yeshua patterned. Is it happening and being allowed to happen in an intimate place, yet still accountable to a fivefold or wider striker? Because it needs to be. So are we actually seeing this? Because just because we've seen a lot of abuse going on with, and some of the stuff we've seen, on the leadership side within certain facets of religion, doesn't mean the answer to this is it's a free-for-all and I hear from the Holy Spirit and do whatever I want. Anybody ever heard anyone like that? What does it look like after a while? It's a mess, and you're going to find that they're going to return to their, what does it say? The Bible says we return to our vomit. If we don't deal with this, if it's left untilled, if we don't get this discipled, we will return to it. And instead of that vomiting, nurturing the soil and allowing a good and healthy tree to come up, the dog eats it again and it is gone, and nothing is nurturing that soil, and the dog is sick and anemic because it's not being fed anymore. It's only regurgitating and re-eating the same stuff over and over and over again. And it will die. And this is the stuff that we are seeing go on out there, and my heart's breaking. I believe not even a billionth, quintrillionth, I don't even think you could measure it, of what our Messiah would be looking at. Remember the thing at the beginning. Do we want to be pleasing in him? So let's figure it out. Let's work this fully through together. I want to take you. We're told to go and make disciples. Biblical discipleship missing from the body. Safe and protected environments for everyone, front and back. Remember this. I'm about to show you an image. Do you know we're seeing the disturbing feminization of men? Yeah, as a result of all of this. Increasing lack of respect for men. You see usurping by women. Does anybody see usurping by women going on right now? Well, it's happening. This is not healthy. However, I'm also seeing an alarming lack of cherishing for women. Do you know that if we don't see the designs, the nurturing, the protective designs, learning to operate so that with the shadow picture of this being in the flesh, do you know this is going to harm the body? The greatest thing, ladies, you can give to a man, remember this, is respect. To know that he's valued and respected. And men, the greatest thing you can give to the women is to know they're valued and cherished. We were supposed to be the example of this. So I need a healthy environment that eventually I can learn to respect. If anybody's experienced, I know I've got some of the donkeys here, but is it true? Do we learn to cherish more if we get into discipleship environment? We do, don't we? Is that a better use of our time than keyboard worrying about the latest conspiracy theory? Accountable place for any type of doctrinal discussion, because they're going to happen whether you want them or not. But I'll tell you something, they start happening less and less as people mature and mature. Because all of a sudden, they're not so willing to come up with what they think they know when you got a bunch of other people that are growing up around you with a bit of accountability, and you don't get to run away. Oh, you think you know what you think you know what you think you know. Well, let's just see what you think you know. And that's a good thing for all of us. But we need this, because if this is left untouched, and I'm only living on the outside ring and I'm wandering around YouTube, is it possible that my thoughts on this doctrinal, I could be blown around by every wind of? Accountable place for every type of doctrinal discussion, sharing one another's burdens, thus fulfilling the law of Messiah. Fires prepared us for service to become honorable vessels. Keep the wolves out of the camp. Here we go. Many counterfeit models, home groups, life groups. Okay, so train the trainer, make disciples of nations. We talk in modern speak, train the trainer, but you're going to start to see this happen. Do you know that I have seen in my discipleship environment that we lived in figuring this all out in New Zealand, we have seen a fivefold raise from it. Not people going, I've gone to, Christian university, or I've gone to yeshiva, or I've gone to whatever, and all of a sudden I'm now the pastor, or I'm the prophet, or I'm the teacher. We'll put it on our door. I'm the prophet. However, the religious doctrine I've embraced defines even what that means. Do you know that I have watched something raising up in front of me, and the whole reason why I've been able to come and serve at another appointed time, or to enjoy being here with you, or to be able to do this, is because there's something that the Father's been raising up that's actually starting to be able to learn how to tend the orchard. And these are the same men. Only 5 years ago, I'm driving home going, Father, this can't be your way. These guys are idiots. No, I'm sorry. They'll be watching that. Did not mean that. Okay, I actually didn't. Okay, love you guys. No, seriously. It's not what I thought. I thought these guys need to maybe think about it another way, right? Man, stuff just comes out, eh? No filter. All right, let's finish up here. Boy, that's brutal. I'm sorry, guys. You do not deserve that. Mark 9:5. Okay, so if anyone sat down, called the 12, he said to them, if anyone would be first, he must be last and servant of all. I had to learn to be a servant again, but yet not forfeit my leadership. Does that make sense? Yeah. These are the things that we're looking at, the donkey stable, and then we're going to try and create an environment where we can actually connect people from around the world that could come in and spend time in more intimate environments. And let's let the 2s and 3s develop from there, not try and control that. But let's let the people who lead these stables receive a way of growing and maturing from the fivefold. That people like Rabbi Steve can work with these people, that I may get a chance to work with you to help give the learning curve to say, let's raise up the servant donkeys. Because at some point where you're a children or a sheep, you may find being in that environment, the Father might just call you to what? Become a servant leader. Do you see? But let him do it. But at the same time, he's asking Curtis, tend to the sprinklers. And the donkeyettes. Call them the donkeyettes. These are the sort of things. This is the way that it's all kind of sort of been developing over the years. And now we're just trying to take it wider. So when you hear this thing, the donkey stable and all that kind of stuff, and there are some people here that are right now a part of a stable, they're with you. And if you have any questions, you can go bother them. And but this thing here is the only thing I've ever known to produce fruit at a level where I'm not running around now trying to move the sprinklers myself all the time. That's all. It doesn't mean I'm not necessary or needed. I'm still serving the body in whatever capacity the Father may deem fit. So this is actually really live in what it's living. I've not got names and stuff like that because that's not really the relevant bit here. The relevant bit is this. The names that sit here, who's in the center? Yeshua. I've got me there. That's a fivefold place. Or an elder. Or a deacon. Or whatever. But it's some sort of servitude leadership. Understand? Now, in this, come from different places. But if every single one of those is a part of the stable that I'm running internationally, all start to run their own stables, all of a sudden when they're ready to serve, they don't leave the stable they're connected into. Here's the fundamental difference between the counterfeits that have been sold in life groups, home groups, everything else. They want to connect everything directly back to a mothership and control it. Do you know what this one is connected by? The servant, the donkey stable they've been in. Do you see the difference? Because then you really know what this person's up to. Do you think you could control 3,000? Let's say MTOI grows to, it might be thousands already, but okay, let's say it grows to hundreds of thousands. Steve's got to contact every one of them each morning and see how they're going. And then deal with their burdens and their fires and everything. Does that sound right? Okay. But if that's all happening incrementally, whether your stable is 12, by the way, that's a rule with this. We cap it at 12. But it doesn't have to be 12. Could be 4. Could be 6. Do you see? Whatever you're able to work with and grow. But these people here, once they step out here, they're never walking alone. Because guess the very environment they've submitted into feeds them. They can seek it. There's always a way to get the wisdom, the advice, the accountability, whatever is required. You're not alone. Because guess what I hear all the time? Oh, but I'm not a speaker, Curtis. I can't articulate like that. I don't know this. I don't know as much as you. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. It keeps going and going. So therefore, I cannot serve. Because the only way you can be a part of discipleship is if you can yabber your head off wearing a stupid hat. Like, this is what we're getting to. I'm sorry, this is tantamount, and I've said this to people that walk close enough with me, this is tantamount to the coach being in a changing room, and we got a football game going out on the field, and the football team's walking out on that field, and all the players are in the dressing room with the coach, and they're going, okay, coach, good luck. Go get them. And the coach runs onto the field with 60,000 people cheering, and he lines up like this against the other team. What do you think the fans in the other team are going to think of that scene? We need to listen to the coach so that the team walks out onto the field. Do you hear that? We need a team on the field. We don't get rid of the coach just because we're trying to get a team on the field. The coach is more valuable now more than ever. Fivefold. And there we go. Over and over and over. And you want to know something? This changed the course of human history 2,000 years ago without even a weapon, without the technology, without the social media, without the video components that we see in the internet, without airplanes, without cars. Do you think Messiah was proving a point? Changed the course of human history and conquered the empire with the most steely grip ever known to mankind in history as we know it and understand it. Wow. I think he's proved his point. Do you? Think Messiah proved his point? Do you think his model's broken? Do you think maybe our model's broken? Do you think maybe we can get back to his model? Do you think that maybe there's a world out there right now, believing bodies, our family, that are coming into the house of Israel that they might need to see an example? This is my encouragement to you, because I am finishing here. I don't want to get into that one. Okay, I just gotta. Way you're going to go through this, you're going to get this. When Mr. Such and Such shows up in a stable, you're going to get Mr. Agenda, Mr. Know-It-All, Mr. Divisive, Mr. I'm the Leader, Mr. Wet Fish. Okay? You're going to get all this. And do you want to know something? If they can just stay and hack it and make it through all of this pride and insecurity and emotionally rested development and everything they're experiencing in their moments is going to vomit out, be tilled and matured, and all of a sudden, whatever way they came in. Because we want to change Mr. All of these to Mr. Teshuvah, Mrs. Teshuvah. Do you understand? Connecting the house of Israel. We will be looking for ministry partners, people to work together with. Indeed, Steve and I have already well into that, but this will, Steve, one of the things I love about MTOI is to what? To benefit, to work with, to grow, to what? Destroy the rest of the body of Messiah, or to? Yeah, okay. That's right. So we're gonna hopefully can be a part of something that's gonna be good. We'll be working to develop potential servant leaders in these environments. We'll be looking to develop the servant leadership. I'm looking at potentially whether we do these training camps and to actually work with raising up people that can be used in the discipleship process in accountable, wise, and healthy manner. And of course, we all need everybody to get involved in their help and their support. So message to the body. You are his people. Stop playing church or synagogue or the gathering of whatever Talmudic reality there might be on. Unhealthy focus on size of flock, not on the health of the flock. Do you know size takes care of itself? Let's just deal with this being healthy and pleasing in his eyes. And guess what he says? Who adds unto his kahal daily? Who? You do? He does. And he's going to do this. But he wants the environment, the ground to do it in. Discipleship versus programs and institutions. Discipleship for his people, Israel, not an unbelieving world. Let's stop telling Rome how to behave. Let's start helping each other to behave. You get that? Okay. It's time to get back to what he patterned. We're going to finish it there. And we can do a Q&A if, depending on how Steve wants to do this or not. But I want to thank you for hearing me out. Sorry I didn't have the filters on. But I really, really, really appreciate you walking through that. And I hope that hopefully everybody in this room and one day we can be a part of a wider journey. Amen? Okay.
Amen, amen. Well, thank you, Curtis. I hope everybody really can appreciate all of the abundant field of things you can glean out of that. There was a lot of really good stuff. Appreciate that. Very good job, Curtis.